Good. Everybody could have a seat, please. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speakers Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Tim, and I'm an alcoholic. This is a one-hour speakers meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street, Doylestwon, Pennsylvania, at 8:30 p.m. We record all our speakers so that others may benefit from their simple message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask Ron. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves tonight with their first name? Sir.
My name's Pat. I'm an alcoholic.
Welcome, Pat. Welcome. Thank you. Welcome. Ma'am. Welcome, Jen. Welcome, Kara. Welcome, Colin. Yes.
Justin, I'm an alcoholic.
Justin, welcome. Okay. If you have any questions or would like to make this your home group, please see Ron or me or Luli at the end of this meeting. The Conscious Contact Group, Speaker Group, encourages sponsorship. Would anyone who has a working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, raise your hand, please. Very good. If you are new to the program, those hands can be your savior. Take note. See someone after the meeting. Are there any announcements tonight for the good of AA? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, everybody. My name is Carol. I'm an alcoholic.
Welcome, Carol.
The Flowertown Center and St. Thomas Group are having a Thanksgiving gratitude meeting at St. Thomas Church in Flowertown. 9 a.m. is fellowship, 10 a.m. is the meeting, and it's an awesome day. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, yes.
Justin, I'm an alcoholic.
Justin, welcome.
Somewhere in the Spirit House in North Wales has been holding a book study just for residents there, but myself and some of the other guys in the meeting, we've taken it upon ourselves to turn it into an outside meeting. It will be held at Somerville Baptist on 309 Richardson Road, starting not this coming Tuesday, but the following Tuesday. I forget the exact date, at 7:30.
Okay. So an inside big book is now an outside book. Very good. Very good. Any others? Yes, my dear.
Hi, I'm Shannon. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Shannon. Welcome.
So there's a blue Ford parked outside in a handicap spot that has its inside lights on.
They go out. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Good.
All right.
Yes, sir.
My name's Nick. I'm an alcoholic.
Nick, welcome.
ODAC, one day at a time in Telford's having a alcothon on Thanksgiving. Starting at 9 a.m. Food and fellowship all day until 10 p.m. Food at noon and 5 o'clock. Please join us.
Very good. Thanks. Any others? I'll add one. There is a Lollapalooza AA meeting in February, 25th, 26th, 27th. If you go online to lollapaloozaaa.org, you will find the sign-ups. It will be some wonderful speakers from throughout the country. We'll be here for a 3-day workshop. The cost includes dinner and things like that. You do not obviously have to stay in a hotel there. You live this, we're within half an hour. I think it's in Feasterville. All right, so you might want to check that out. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me, Luli, or any home group member, including Ron. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speakers Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purchase of big books and especially CDs to help those who can't afford them, please put a donation in the jar in the back on the table. Our group's always looking for those members who are ready and willing to provide service to AA, this group and this meeting in particular. This speaker, past speakers as well as local, regional, national, and international speakers are available on CD free of charge. Please see Ron, Luli, or myself after the meeting if you would like one. I'd like to now welcome up Justin, who will be reading our AA Preamble.
All right, where are we at here? Oh, okay. No problem. Hi, I'm Justin. I'm an alcoholic. All right. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is the desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics achieve sobriety. I would like to welcome up Luli to read the 12 steps.
Hi, everybody. I'm Luli. I'm an alcoholic. First step, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we were entirely ready to have God remove all of these defects of character. 7, we humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, we made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, we continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs.
It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce to you a speaker who is a good friend of the Conscious Contact Group. Please extend a warm AA welcome to Paul MCQ.
Hi everyone, my name is Paul, I'm an alcoholic. And it's good to be here and it's good to be sober. I want to thank the Conscious Contact Group for giving me the opportunity to do service here tonight. It's an honor and a privilege to be asked to speak here. And I see there's a lot of newcomers here tonight, so perhaps you can get a kick out of this. There's a newcomer and he's talking to his sponsor, and the sponsor says to him, "I just think where you were just 90 days ago." And the sponsee says, "Well, actually, I was sitting in a hot tub, half drunk, surrounded by beautiful women in bikinis." And the sponsor says, "Isn't it wonderful you don't have to live like that anymore today, you know?" I mean, like, so maybe you're thinking, like, is this it, you know? There's another joke I like to tell. There's a lot of young people here tonight, probably dating an Alcoholics Anonymous, probably get a kick out of this. There's a guy who's a sober guy in Alcoholics Anonymous, and he's out on a blind date with a normal drinker. And they're sitting and they're having dinner, and he orders a glass of water and she orders a glass of wine. And she says, "I notice you don't drink." He says, "No, I don't drink." She says, "You don't drink at all?" He says, "No, I don't drink at all." She says, "Not even one drop?" He says, "Not even one drop." She says, "What would happen if you took a sip of my wine?" So he sat back and he says, "Just imagine you wake up, you don't know where you are, you don't know what day it is, you don't know what time it is, your watch is gone, your car's gone, your phone's gone." She says, "That would happen to you if you took one drink." He says, "Not happen to you if I took one drink, you know." So, anyway, it's a good thing to be asked to speak here tonight. And if you are new to Alcoholics Anonymous, I want to welcome you to the greatest singular event in my life. This is the last thing I tried and the first thing that ever worked. I tried many ways of stopping drinking. My problem wasn't stopping drinking. My problem was I couldn't stop starting. And I came into Alcoholics Anonymous in 1992, and with your help, I haven't taken a drink from that day to now. So if you're new in Alcoholics Anonymous, the help is in these rooms. I'm a great believer Alcoholics Anonymous is one of the few places in the world that I know of where you see hope in human form. God works through people, and people get people sober. And I walked into Alcoholics Anonymous in August of 1992 on probably one of the worst nights of my life. And we talk about the grace of God, and that's wonderful. I think it's so much more than grace. I think it's mercy. And the definition of mercy that I like the best is entering into the chaos of another person's life. And in August of 1992, when everybody, and rightly so, was going that way, the only people coming this way was Alcoholics Anonymous. And they carried this message. My message mightn't even keep me sober. They carried this message. And what is the message that's on offer here in Alcoholics Anonymous? I believe this, and I hope I never forget it. When complete defeat through alcohol, step one. I'm powerless over alcohol. I got a body that won't let me drink, a mind won't let me stop. My life's unmanageable, drunk or sober if I'm running it. 23 years off a drink. I hope I never forget this. One drink tonight, destination unknown. When I controlled my drinking, I couldn't enjoy it. And when I enjoyed my drinking, I couldn't control it. And that's what separates me from the normal or heavy drinker. So in complete defeat through alcohol, step one meets what you see here tonight. Hope in human form in step 12. Recovery can and will begin. And these people took me from a place of powerlessness and unmanageability, not to a place where I have power, that's just ego, but a place where I have access to power 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm not here to sell AA, it sells itself. But you cannot get where I am tonight from where I came from without AA. It's an impossible journey. And the reason I continue coming to AA is because I know how the movie goes, but I wouldn't miss it. To see somebody else walking in on the worst night of their life and be at the door with a firm handshake. And that's what we do here. We're in this lifeboat together. I love that metaphor of the lifeboat. We are survivors from the sinking ship. And it doesn't matter. And that's when you say an alcoholic. That's all I need to know about you. I know you've experienced terror, frustration, bewilderment, and despair. I know you put a drink to your lips as the tears rolled down your face and you drank it anyway. I know that friends and family and loved ones pleaded with you not to drink. And for goodness sake, at the end of my drinking, I drank against my own will, for God's sake. I know that because I'm an alcoholic, and when you say that, I know that because you're an alcoholic. And we're in this lifeboat together. And we don't sail off into the sunset, patting each other in the back. We circle back, looking for other survivors, and get them into the ship, into the lifeboat, and put a blanket over them, and a hand on the shoulder, and it's going to be all right. And I heard a speaker say recently, and I have to remember this, no fighting in the lifeboat. It's none of my business who's sitting next to me in the lifeboat. That's God's business. But it's my responsibility to put my hand out, because there was somebody there for me, and I have to be there for somebody else. And I think of this chain of drunks. Bill Wilson, and I've stood outside that hospital where he had that spiritual awakening. In that hospital, it's not a hospital now, up in Central Park West, Towns Hospital used to be. And I've stood outside that building on the night that he got sober, on December 11th. And he had this vision of a chain of drunks around the world, not just New York or the Northeast. One drunk, and I think to myself how altruistic he was, even in the depths of his despair. The first thing he thought of was, how many people must be out there just like me? And maybe I could help them. Maybe what happened to me, I can help them. And I believe that. That's what I asked myself about when you see this good home group here. I asked myself, how strong is my link in the chain? Is it strong to the people that went ahead of me? And more importantly, is it strong to the people coming behind? If someone says to me tonight, can I go to that place that you speak about? Can I comprehend the word serenity and no peace? Absolutely. Walk this road with us, because we do together what I can't do alone. And if I'm doing AA alone, I ain't doing AA. There's a friend of mine who says it's BB. I said, what's BB? He said, I don't know, but it's not AA. So they say down in Texas, I love this statement, they say, if you're new, come all the way in and sit all the way down. And I think about how blessed we are to be sitting here tonight. As I said, Bill Wilson got sober on December 11, 1934. But on this day, he had started drinking on November 11th. Bill Wilson, what's this, November 14th? On November 14th, 1934, Bill Wilson was drunk. And as far as you looked in any direction, there was no AA. And your life And my life at that moment in time hung by a thread. People say, well, if it hadn't have been Bill and Bob, it would have been John and Jim. Well, it wasn't John and Jim. It was Bill and Bob. They're the two guys that did it. So at this time in 1934, our futures hung by a thread. And thank God Bill Wilson did get sober on December 11th. And thank God he had that vision of one drunk helping another. And thank God eventually, a few months later, on Mother's Day weekend in 1935, he would talk to a guy called Dr. Bob Smith, and the two of those men would start this fellowship, and that we're sitting in here tonight as sober men and women. And I'm so blessed for that. They have that, you know, you remember though in the space program when the rockets would be coming back from the moon, and they would use this phrase called a window of opportunity. And it meant that the spacecraft had to hit the Earth's atmosphere at the right angle, at the right amplitude, or it would skim off the Earth's atmosphere into space at the right speed and the right angle. And they call that a window of opportunity. And on Mother's Day weekend of 1935, there was a window of opportunity. Everything was lined up. And who knows if that window would have come back round again. For thousands of years, there was people like us, couldn't fit in, took drink, ran away from life with drink, ran at life with drink. We were society's first outcasts. But at that moment in time, on Mother's Day weekend 1935, there was a window of opportunity, and Bill Wilson stepped through it, and he took Dr. Bob with him. And we can trace this moment in time back to that moment in time. I feel so blessed to be born in a time that had Alcoholics Anonymous. Because before Alcoholics Anonymous, there was three choices for people like ourselves. There was jails, institutions, and death. And once you've been to the first few a few times, the third one starts to look like a good option. And the sad thing about this disease, by the time you're actually graveyard dead, you've been dead emotionally, spiritually, and mentally for years. And everybody that mattered in your life is long, long gone. I know this is an open meeting. If there's anybody here that's from Al-Anon or a friend or family, thank God for that program, because that's what we do as alcoholics. We just suck and suck and suck till there's nothing left, and people are like, go in, drink, or go in, don't drink, but you must leave our lives. So if you're new here tonight, I want to offer you what was offered to me, and that's the hope. I know we threw the word miracle around a lot, but the definition I like the best is a miracle is a complete reversal or upheaval of the laws of nature. It's in my nature to be drunk right now, and I'm not. Now, how that happened didn't happen because of me. It happened because of you people. And I believe this. If you believe nothing else here tonight, I believe if you're new here, there's a miracle here with your name on it. Nobody can take it for you. Nobody can take it from you. Come up and get the life you're meant to have before drink took you down another road. Or maybe you're like me at one time in AA, not drinking, but won't do this program. And that can be, I've been the jumping off place twice in my life. Once with drink and once without drink. Different type of pain, but pain nonetheless. But just a little bit of my story, you know. As I said, there I know it may come as a shock to some people, but I'm not from the neighborhood, you know. And it's about 25 years now since I left my native Cuba. And, you know, I was just talking to John. I grew up in Northern Ireland, and the sort of neighbourhood I came from, if you didn't drink, you moved. Everybody drank. I didn't know anybody that didn't drink. I used to get a lot of mental gymnastics when I first came to AA. Why did I become an alcoholic? When did I become an alcoholic? You know the old alcoholic conundrum, what came first, the chicken or the keg, you know? And there's a few guys that got drunk trying to figure that one out. But I'm not here to point any fingers, but my family tree was like Eugene O'Neill's Long Day's Journey into Night. There was alcoholism on one side of the family and mental illness on the other side of the family. And let me just tell you like this, when I took my first breath, I blew a .28, you know, and I could have been taken from the delivery room right to the AA room, you know. I'm not going to go into the whole ins and outs of it, but there's been certain points in my life, not many, and perhaps you can identify, where before and after was so clear, like the separation between these chairs. One of them was when I became a father. My life before it and after it, completely different. And one of the big ones was taking drink. Was that a symptom looking for disease? I don't know. But when I took booze that first time, I was a 14 or 15-year-old kid, chronic people pleaser, always had that stone in my shoe, didn't feel right, something just wasn't right. And you've heard all the different metaphors. I took that drink, it was like my life went from black and white to color in one drink. Most people drink because what alcohol does to them. Our book talks about it. A sense of conviviality, fired imagination, a social lubricant. I drink because what alcohol does for me. For whatever reason, I had this big hole in my soul, and booze filled that hole. I could be everything I thought you wanted me to be, and for a chronic people pleaser with low self-esteem, it was a magic elixir. But looking back on it now, I made a Faustian bargain. I made a deal with the devil, John Barleycorn. Booze will give you a lift. It gave me a lift at 14 or 15. But when it came time to pay the freight, watch out. In The Merchant of Venice, Shylock just wanted £1 of flesh, not this disease. It'll take your job, your car, your partner, the shirt off your back. But what it really wants is me 6 feet under. There's a lot of terminal diseases out there, but this is one of the most terminal. If I hadn't stopped drinking would have stopped me. Now, you couldn't have told me that at 14 or 15. Like, it's come to Christmas time. I always love watching the old version of A Christmas Carol, and they got the 3 different ghosts, one of the past and the present and the future. If the ghost of my alcoholic future had come along that first night and said, I want to show you something. Look through that window. You see that guy sitting drinking around the clock against his own will? You see that guy that's burnt every bridge that ever mattered? You see that guy that's pushed away anybody that really mattered in his life? You see that guy who's got quicksand scratched all around him? That's you in 15 years. I just said, you're out of your mind. You must be thinking of somebody else. But that's what happened, and then some. Thank God for Alcoholics Anonymous that I was able to get in here. Because alcoholics of our variety. There's only 2 ways to stop drinking. With AA in this lifetime, or on the other side of the grave. If you're alcoholic, you will stop drinking. The good news about AA gives you an opportunity to decide what side of the grave you want to stop on. But alcoholics of our variety, one way or the other, we're going to stop drinking. We just buried 2 guys up in Rockaway there a couple of weeks ago. People who had sat in the rooms here, and both went back out again and both died. Don't underestimate yourself. If you're here, hang here. We hang together because we'll die alone if we don't. Bill Wilson said that, and I took that drink at 15. And how can I sum it up? Just talking funny, John will get a kick out of this. I was a soccer fanatic. I loved soccer. Had a somewhat of a promising career. George Best was a famous soccer player. Everybody wanted to be the next guy. I had scouts came and watched me play. I took a drink at 14 or 15. I don't think I kicked a soccer ball 6 times after that. Now, I would have told you for many years that I gave up soccer. I didn't give up soccer. Alcoholism took that from me. It is a herbaceous creditor. When it comes time to take, it'll take the whole lot. Just to give you some of the dynamics before my teens. Here's the sort of an alcoholic I was. I started drinking at 14 or 15. Within a few months, I'm getting my stomach pumped out on a school night. My parents didn't know what to do with me. I remember my mother saying this, and it's so sad. She goes, you hadn't come, and in the neighbourhood I lived in, if you hadn't come home at night, at that time in Northern Ireland, it was a pretty dodgy place to live. And she goes, I didn't know where you were. And this was on a school night. And she goes, I went down to the local shops, and I seen this figure getting up and falling. She goes, I knew it was you. I was probably 15 or 16 years of age. I was kicked out of school. I mean, nowadays I think about it because I work in education. I showed up to take an exam at 2 o'clock in the afternoon drunk. And the guy just said to me, listen, do us all a favour, Nowadays I'd have like a crisis team, guidance counselors, social workers. Back then they're just like, give us all a break, and I didn't, that was it. Dropped out of school. Didn't get a high school diploma until I was 32 and 2 years sober. And alcohol, as I said, just kept picking up. Before I'm out of my teens, I'm a daily drinker. Before I'm out of my teens, I'm taking morning drink. And it just got worse. That's the story of my alcoholism. But the good news is, sobriety is progressive too. Now, I'm not going to stand up here like some snake oil salesman and promise you the moon and the stars. There's things I lost through drinking. They're not coming back. And there's things you lost through drinking. They're not coming back either. Thank God for the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Who among us could live with the guilt and the shame and remorse of our drinking if it wasn't for the 12 steps to alleviate it? I believe this. We don't do the steps because they're nice. We do them because they're necessary for recovery. If I want to get physically and mentally and spiritually and emotionally rehabilitated, I have to work this program. I've tried every other way of getting the vital spiritual experience without doing the steps. Nothing worked. Get some symbolic victories, but nothing of any permanence. I've tried to fill that hole in my soul with booze, people, places, things, some transitory victories, but nothing of any permanence. Because only when I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, and then in alcoholism, I end up the jumping off place in AA, beaten into a sense of reasonableness for the second time. And against my better judgment, which everything actually that's helped me in AA has been against my better judgment, I put these principles into my life. But you couldn't have told me as a young guy. It's no coincidence. When I look back on it now, that alcohol, I hitched my wagon to a star called alcohol and I rode it to the precipice. I left Northern Ireland, geographical cure, always looking for an outside fix for an inside job, blaming my life in Northern Ireland. I can't get a break, it'll be different. It was different. It was worse. I came out to New York, now there's nobody saying, it's 8 o'clock in the morning, what are you doing with a drink in your hand? And like Bill Wilson says in his story, it was like going down a ski jump. I probably did in 5 years in New York, but it took 10 years back at home with all the cushions and the props. I got a job as a bartender in a crazy bar in Rockaway Beach. I used to bartend from 6 at night to 4 in the morning. I worked in a bar. At the end of my drinking, it was actually quite pathetic. I worked in a bar where I could literally walk behind the bar at 6 o'clock at night and pour myself a drink and put it in the speed rack. At the end of my drinking, I couldn't even get there. I couldn't ride elevators. I couldn't ride the subway. My nerves were shot from drinking. And the writing was on the wall for many years before that. I started hitting hospitals at 24, 25 years of age. I'll just give you one vignette. I almost went to the graveyard thinking that I had a drinking problem. I found out in Alcoholics Anonymous that a drinking problem is solved by not drinking. But I suffer from alcoholism. And that's a horse of a different colour. It's physical, mental, spiritual, and in my case, wrapped up in a body full of sick emotions. Not drinking, as Bill Wilson says, is a start, but it's just a start. Alcohol is only mentioned the first half of the first step. I need the other 11 and a half steps to help me do what I couldn't do, drunk or sober, and that's live out there in God's world under His conditions rather than my demands. So by the time I was 27, I was doing what it says in our book in chapter 3. I'm taking oaths, I'm taking proclamations, I'll stop for Lent, I'll get back in shape. But you see, before I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, you people give me something I never had. You give me something between me and the first drink. If you're new here tonight, get something between you and the first drink. Now maybe you're sitting out there tonight and going, oh, these steps and traditions and preambles. We have a symbol in Alcoholics Anonymous. It's a triangle inside a circle. And there's 3 parts to it: unity, service, and recovery. And I believe this. From your very first meeting, you can put all 3 parts of that triangle into your life. Unity, the lifeboat. We do together what I can't do alone. Many meetings make it easy, few make it hard, and none make it impossible. I got to be a part of rather than apart from. I got to be in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous. Service. You put away one more chair than the one you sat on tonight. Congratulations, you're doing service in Alcoholics Anonymous. Why do I need to do service? Because I'm shackled to self. By the very biochemistry of this disease, my Holy Trinity is always me, me, me. So to break those shackles of self, I had to learn to do service in AA. There's a guy that used to speak that passed away. He would say, the highest pay grade in Alcoholics Anonymous is servant. So through service in a home group, I stayed tethered to Alcoholics Anonymous rather than floating around Alcoholics Anonymous. Recovery, maybe these 12 steps and all, we have slogans. Easy does it. Live and let live. One day at a time. The slogans were like the banisters to the steps. Now I'm here to tell you, not in the theoretical, but in the purely pragmatic, you can stay dry in 2 parts of the triangle. I've done it. You can stay dry in 1 part of the triangle. I've done that too. But if you want to get free, if I wanted to get free from the one guy I couldn't get free from, which is me, and live in the one place I never lived, which is right here, right now, I got to put all 3 parts into my life, and I got to do it every day. The only way that I coast in Alcoholics Anonymous is downhill. I was talking to a guy there, and that's the truth. I was talking to a guy recently, and he called me up, and he had some serious problems. And he was sober a long time. And he says to me, and I told him just what I told you about the unity, service, and recovery. And he pretty much said to me, Paul, I'm 20 years sober. And I got big problems. And you're giving me newcomer solutions. And I said to him what was told to me. And it took me a long time to figure this out, but it's so true. It doesn't matter how complex the problem is. The solution's always simple. Unity, service, and recovery. The 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. People say you're just an arm's length away from a drink. I suppose that's true. I'm 12 steps away from a drink. But I tell you something, they're not 12 steps up to anything. They're 12 steps down to humility. I seen people drinking AA again that I thought would never drink. A friend of mine went drinking after a long period of time. He says, you know how you get drunk again in AA? You give those steps back 1 step at a time. You get down to step 3, you take your will back. You become insane. Step 2, so insane you tell yourself you're not an alcoholic and get drunk in the first step. But if we stay close to the principles of unity, service, and recovery, stay 12 steps away from that drink, we'll be okay here day at a time. And the old South Bronx group used to say, it's a cinch by the inch and it's hard by the yard. And we just do it 1 day at a time. So I want to offer you the hope that was offered me. When I walked into my first meeting, or maybe a few meetings, that a guy, Gene McKay, this guy had done 12 years unbroken stretch on the streets of Manhattan. A New York City cop had 12-stepped him on a park bench. And when I came into AA at 37 years, he drove a New York City bus for 25 years. It was an incredible story of hope and redemption. This guy went from being a homeless guy for 12 years to driving a New York City bus for 25 years and getting a pension. That's what we have here and offer, that hope. So don't give up on yourself, because Alcoholics Anonymous will not give up on you. As I said, there's a life here. You know, people come to AA and they go, oh, I came to Alcoholics Anonymous and I got my life back. I don't want my life back. It sucked. I got a whole brand new life in Alcoholics Anonymous. Are there people in my life in my drinking days? Absolutely, but things are different today. My world is built on concrete rather than sand. Because when it's built on sand, the first drink would always wash it away again. So as I said there, at 27 to 30, and here's the sad thing about alcoholism. The worst years of my drinking, 27 to 30, were after I made a firm conviction not to drink anymore. But I didn't have anything between me and the first drink. So I'd always rationalize the first drink. Bill Wilson says, insanity for the alcoholic. I bartended for many years. I used to think insanity was, you see that girl dancing on the pool table right now? That's insanity. They say maybe it is, maybe it's not. Maybe it's just drunken behavior. Insanity for the alcoholic, as Bill Wilson says, is the rationalization of the first drink while physically sober. When I heard those words and understood them, it changed my life. And I'll tell you one vignette between that 27 to 30 period when I was trying to stop drinking but didn't have anything between me and the first drink. I was on a bad binge of drinking one time. I went to a bar to get more drink, and I collapsed in the bar with an alcoholic seizure. Now, I had seizures before, I've been in restraining sheets before, had convulsions before. And I woke up in a local hospital. And there's a woman who was close to me at that time in my life, and she was standing at the bedside. And they took the restraining cuffs off. They gave me some Librium to get me off the ceiling. And I took her hand. And I wasn't trying to be cinematic, but I said to her, I don't know why I can't drink, but it's obvious I can't drink. And I will never, ever drink again. There's a friend of mine says, Paul, if they'd have put you on a lie detector machine, you'd have passed with flying colours. But I left that hospital. I didn't have unity. I didn't have service. I didn't have recovery. I didn't know what the problem was in step 1. I didn't know what the solution was, step 12, or how to go from the problem to the solution through the process called recovery of 12 steps. So one more time, it was just me against the first drink. And within a matter of weeks, and here's what happens to me. When I try to stop drinking, perhaps you can identify, and this tells me the difference between a drinking problem and alcoholism. That ISM on that word separates me from the normal or heavy drinker. Here's what happens to me when I try to stop drinking without unity, service, and recovery, and a 12-step program as outlined in our literature. Perhaps you can identify. I get a week, and I get this stone in my shoe. I know where it comes from, but it's there all the time. 2 weeks go by, I get a knot in my stomach. I don't know where it comes from, but it's there all the time. 3 weeks go by, the top button of my shirt feels tight all the time. I actually got a month, but it felt like everybody was on my case. Either not. And I submit to you, that's 30 days without a drink. That's not a drinking problem, that's a living sober problem. And I drank again. And nobody, our book says the bewildered one, nobody was any more confused than me as I put a drink to my lips after that hospitalization. And she said what people say to us, I got to get away from you before I end up in an asylum. And I said what we say, I don't need you. I don't need nobody. And I had to tell you, I drank for a week or two. I drank for 3.5 more years after that. Bottoms to bottoms. I'm living in a city like New York City, one of the most populated cities in the world. I feel so alone, so detached from humanity, so bereft of spirit. And I'd love to grab somebody on First Avenue and say, you know, they tell me not to drink. And I don't want to drink. But I've tried not drinking. And the minutes feel like hours. And the hours feel like days. And I'm going out of my mind. And I don't know what's wrong with me. It seems to be just, I just get all on top of myself. And I don't know what it is. But just nothing seems right. Now we know that's alcoholism. But I didn't know that. I don't know how to articulate that, how to put the words and music to that. So what do? When all this stuff's coming up, I do what I need to, the only thing I know what to do. I get a bottle of whiskey, and I try to push it back down again. And nothing works. And I find myself at 30 years of age, and I don't know, I maybe talking to John, brought it up, come to the Christmas time. I remember one time, I'm living in the Bronx, in a house, sleeping on a concrete floor in the basement. I had a huge abscess in my mouth. I got the money to go to the dentist twice, and I drank it both times. I lay down with a bottle to drink, and I woke up, and the abscess must have burst. My head was stuck to the pillow, all the blood, and I woke up, and my mother had tracked me down. I used to go off the grid for months at a time. I think of my poor mother back in Ireland. And she would go to people from the neighbourhood who had relatives in New York and say, have you seen my son? I mean, when we think about it. And she got a number, and the phone rang, and it was Christmas Eve. And with a 5-hour time difference, she called me up and she says, Paul, she said, I went to midnight mass tonight, and I prayed for you. And I'm thinking, don't pray for me. I'm beyond the beyond. I ain't coming back. I'm dumb, but I'm not stupid. And I finished that call, and I'd like to tell you that I walked out and had some Frank Capra, it's a wonderful life moment, but I didn't. I drank on because I didn't know what the problem was. I thought you were the problem. This was the problem. He was the problem. I can't catch a break. All the stuff that alcoholics say. If it wasn't for bad luck, I wouldn't have any. I didn't know that I was an alcoholic. And for a long period of my life, alcohol was a suitable treatment for alcoholism, but it had stopped working many years before, and I'm still trying to wring out a little bit of something out of nothing. And I'm at 30 years of age, and I'm a beaten docket, and all my scorecards read 0, and as far as you look in any direction, there's nowhere to go. Bill Wilson sums up an alcohol, when he says that quicksand stretched all around him, what a visualization, and that's what it's like. But it's, as it says in the story, it's darkest before the dawn. Little did I know that I'd end up in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I come in here. Now I'm here to tell you something. We're sitting here tonight. I bartended the last 5 years drinking, and I bartended the first 12 years in AA. Most alcoholics die drunk. They don't even hear of AA. I feel blessed that I got here, heard this message, hung on, and stayed here for more. So please stay here with us. I'd like to tell you that I came into Alcoholics Anonymous and took the ball and scored a touchdown. But our book talks about barroom mentality. And I came in here with, our book talks about let go of old ideas, absolutely. And I wouldn't do that. I came in here with a lot of old ideas, and I carried them in here, and I nurtured them in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And one of those, now I don't know if it's a cultural thing, I had no problem with the step one, but this idea of writing stuff down and telling another person, I was like sitting in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. I was hermetically sealed. And the thing about a wall, Robert Frost, the poet, says, a wall's a good thing. Well, maybe if you're a New England farmer, but not if you're an alcoholic of my variety. And I was building these walls in AA, building them high and building them deep. And the thing about a wall is it keeps you out, but it keeps me in. And I'm sitting out, and I like to tell you about the 3 parts of the triangle. I'm going to meetings. I remember saying, service, I'm making more coffee than Juan Valdez. You kidding me, service? But door number 3, recovery. Our book talks about contemporary investigation. You're looking at it. These steps, like 4 and 5, they seem very touchy, very feely, very warm and fuzzy. I figured I'll do these steps. The next thing I'll have wind chimes hanging up around the house, you know. Wearing flip-flops even in the winter time, you know, and joining Oprah's book club. You know, where does it all end, you know? But I'm here to tell you, you can fool them at the coffee pot at 7:30 at night. But you know when untreated alcoholism comes to visit me? 2 o'clock in the morning. Could'ves, should'ves, would'ves, guilt, shame, remorse. I'm not a sociopath. I knew the bridges I burned, the damage I did, the doors I slammed, and the things I walked away from. I'm lying there sober, off drink, lying cringing in the dark because my past is eating me alive in the present. I had to get free. I knew I couldn't get free from the one guy I got to get free from, which is me. I'm walking around AM smiling with the teeth out. And somebody had my number. A guy came up to me. I had a sponsor, but it was just a name only. And a guy came up to me one night at a meeting. He says, Paul, can I talk to you for a second? I said, yeah. He says, you're dying. And you're dying in AA. And the help's right on the wall. You're like a starving man at a spiritual banquet. You're over here living on bread and water. And there's a whole, just like tonight, there's a whole banquet of food. The guy had my number. And I, yeah, as we do, and smiled from the teeth out. But about a week later, and this is 2.5 years off drink, I didn't know very much money when I came into AA. 2.5 years off this, I was thousands upon thousands of dollars in debt. And I know why today. Maxing out my credit cards. My life was unmanageable. Still trying to fill the hole in my soul with outside stuff. Take a trip to the Caribbean. I feel good for a couple of hours. But I end up with the same equation as a friend of mine says, you always end up back at me on me. And I couldn't get me off of me. Bad jacket, feel good for a half an hour. Always end up the man, the glass, the guy you got to live with 24/7. So about a week after that guy told me that, I'm driving out of the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel. There's a huge highway called the Gowanus Expressway. It's about 5 or 6 lanes. And a guy cuts me off. I said, oh really? I chase after him. This is 2.5 years off drink. I jammed him up against the guardrail. blocking like 3 lanes of traffic. I didn't care who was behind the wheel. It could have been Tony Soprano. I didn't care. I got out, I go back to the car. There's an Asian gentleman shaking, his wife's crying, and his 3 kids are crying in the back of the car. I was so disgusted with myself. I apologized profusely. I get back in the car. I'm banging my head off the steering wheel. I said, I'm crazier off drink than I was on it. I drove to my sponsor's house this time, and I told him what I just told you. And he sat back and he goes, how old were you when this happened? I said, are you listening to what I'm telling you? This happened 20 minutes ago. What do you mean, how old was I? Maybe this is part of the problem. You're not listening. He said, I'll ask you again. And I got it. Harry T. Burt, the psychiatrist that helped Bill Wilson coin that phrase, His Majesty the Baby. I'm a 32-year-old man with childish emotions. I want what I want, and I want it right now. I'm shackled to self. My life's completely unmanageable. The only thing that's different is I'm not drinking. And that's because I have alcoholism. I'm not drinking by itself is not enough. It's going to take more than not drinking to fix me. And against my better judgment, as I said, which is everything that's helped me, I decided to get into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not saying the steps are the panacea of every problem, but they brought me to a point in recovery, God bless you, where I can say what was my work, what was God's work, and if I need help in other areas, that's fine. But I put pen to paper because I wasn't letting people in. I was carrying stuff around from the schoolyard. I'm walking around Alcoholics Anonymous with 2 hefty bags full of garbage. And the thing about carrying 2 hefty bags full of garbage, you got to defend it, justify it, rationalize it. Now, if I stop somebody in the street who's not in this program and I tell them the life that that's terrible, but you people told me, Paul, you got to get free. Whatever metaphor, drop the rock, God, whatever. I had to get free of the one guy I couldn't get free from. So I said there, I started to put pen to paper and put this stuff down. Stuff that I thought I was going to take to the grave with me. In steps 4 and 5. The thing about this program, and that's why I tell you when my life really caught on fire. Was it nice to do the steps? Get a full knowledge of my condition? Yes. Get rid of that stuff that I've been carrying around. Sunlight's the best disinfectant, I understand that. But I'll tell you when my life really caught on fire. Is when I turned around and I brought another man through the steps. It says to watch a fellowship group around you is something you shouldn't miss. And that's been my experience. Helping others to get out of self. The most selfish thing I could do would be to do this program and put it in my back pocket. It has given me a lot. And it's the least I can do to try to help another alcoholic. The whole program, as far as I'm concerned, is predicated. Alcoholics Anonymous without the newcomer, it's just a room full of noise. Makes no sense to me. The whole program is predicated on helping the next alcoholic. I think Alcoholics Anonymous is like a backwater pond. It needs fresh water. Without fresh water, it becomes stagnant. And nothing grows in stagnant water. I die, you die. What's the point? So this fresh water that you bring into my life by helping others. As I said there, I'm not going to tell you that everything became wonderful once I did that program, but I started to sleep better at night. I started to see the manageability of my life. And a lot has happened over the years. As I said there, that was another misconception I thought that I had. I thought I did this program and checked the boxes, that life would be wonderful every day. And life is wonderful because I don't drink. But things happen. Life goes on. And Alcoholics Anonymous is not the absence of problems. It's the ability to walk through these problems a day at a time and not take a drink. I'm so glad at my first meeting they didn't have a clipboard because I'm going to check the box for not drinking. I wanted to shortchange myself. But I got so much more. I got an ability to live life on life's terms with this program. And things happen. I mean, I was just talking earlier on there, at 20 years sober. I went through a divorce in Alcoholics Anonymous. Now I'm going to tell you something. Thank God, I have a lot of defects of character, but thank God one of them is not spiritual pride. Because I have to let somebody know what time of day it is in my spiritual life. And I realized going through that, never mind resentment up to here, at 20 years sober, lying awake at night. And thank God I realized if I try to navigate my way out of this alone, I'm finished. A 9-year-old, 8-year-old daughter telling me in the first person, Daddy, I don't want to get divorced. Almost broke my heart. And what do? I do what I know, only thing I know to do. I come to rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not saying you got to go into the gory details, but I share my experience, strength, and hope. I talk to other men and women who've been through similar things, and these people help me to get through that very, very difficult time. There's not one thing in my life that a drink's going to make any better. If I've got 5 problems tonight and I take a drink, I got 6 problems, and one of them is a major one. So I've got a pretty good life. I come into Alcoholics Anonymous, I said at 30 years of age, I was a bartender. And my sponsor says to me, why don't you take a few classes of school? I said, Jimmy, you know, I'm 32 years of age. You know, go back to school. He said, why don't you take a few classes? I said, all right, and I took a few classes. I enjoyed it. And I got a degree, got another degree, 2 graduate degrees, became a teacher. When I first started teaching, I wanted to teach, and I ended up, and the reason I'm telling you this, I ended up working in special education. And that has been such a joy to my life. I'm such an alcoholic. I can drop into self in a moment's notice. And recently, when I was going through those things, I got a phone call, and a student, or they pick up a new student. And I'm wrapped up in my own problems and my own self. I'm trying to help other alcoholics. And then you find yourself, I go into this student's house, and sometimes the students are just sick from a broken arm. I'm looking at a kid who's in the 10th grade. Not a hair in his head, brain cancer, terminal. I've been in houses before where children are dying. There's like a pallor. The father's standing in the corner, looks like he hasn't slept in weeks. The mother looks like she's going to burst into tears at any minute. And they've got a younger child that's walking around. And I thought to myself, in the grand scheme of things, Paul, please, I've got it so well today. Yes, I have a terminal disease too. But I have a program that alleviates that 24 hours a day. Because one of our speakers talks about if you went to a cancer hospital today and you said to those people in the terminal ward, we got this program, 12 steps, 12 traditions, 3 parts of a triangle, they would beg you to take them with them. And here I sit in Alcoholics Anonymous with an equally determined disease, and I'll tell you what I'll do and what I won't do. I'll forgive him, but I'm not forgiving her. I'll do this step, but I won't do that step. It's insanity. And that's why I got to keep coming to Alcoholics Anonymous. Because this disease will kill me stone dead, with or without a drink in my body. But the great things that have happened, I talked about standing on that Christmas Eve and my mother calling me. And then you find yourself at 15 years sober. And I remember this, I'm up in Maine. I said to her, you can't get where I am today from where I came from without AA. I'm up in Maine on a summer's day, on a vacation, right at the very end of the summer. Just on one of those New England days, beautiful azure sky, just a hint of fall in the air. And we used to go up to Kennebunkport, and there was a little town nearby called Wells, and they had a little sort of amusement park. And I had my daughter with me. She was about 4 or 5, and we're sitting on this little Ferris wheel, little small Ferris wheel, and we're going round. And we're just going around saying nothing, and just looking at over the ocean. It's beautiful, and thinking to myself, what a beautiful day. And my daughter, as kids do at that age, totally unsolicited, just turns around and says, Daddy, I love you. And I thought to myself, how do you get from where I was, drinking round the clock, against my own will, scorecards reading 0, I stopped the world I want to get off, a world hater, a people hater, and nobody understands me, a chip on both shoulders, can't catch a break, and then you're sitting one day with 14 or 15 years sobriety and a little beautiful child of God telling you that they love you. And you realize, now I'd like to tell you that there's moments like that 24/7, but they're not. But I thought to myself, now this is what the mystics were talking about. That moment in time, you realize why you've walked this journey, why you've taken these things, why you sit in people's houses at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, helping another alcoholic, going to hospitals. It all makes sense when you're sitting in a moment like that in space and time, when a child tells you something like that. And I have had other moments like that. As I said there, I remember thinking to myself as she said it to me, that's what I was looking for in whiskey. But it always left me cold and flat. So I'm here not to sell this program. It sells itself. But I've had a good life in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'll tell you something. If I was to walk out of this meeting right now and drop dead in that car park, I realize today why I walked this earth, what my purpose was, what my rhythm was. Did I help another person? My life makes sense today. I'm not sitting in some bar half drunk, one of those 3 o'clock in the morning conversations, what's it all about? I know what it's about today. Everything I know, believe me, I've heard a lot of those bartending, you know. Those 3 o'clock in the morning, unlocking the mysteries of the universe talks. I know what's important. Everything I need to know, I found out in Alcoholics Anonymous. Here's what I need to know. My name is Paul, and I'm an alcoholic. That tells me who I am, what I am, where I am, what I need to be doing, and if I know that, I'm all right. And when I'm all right, everything around me is all right too. I remember, there's one story I'd like to leave you with. I was about 14 years sober. And I was still married at the time. We were moving house. I'm in this apartment where I just want to give the keys over. The apartment's completely empty. My wife and 3-year-old daughter at the time are in the new place. And I'm laying on a blow-up mattress, completely empty. You just got to hand the key over the next day. And I'm laying there and I have a heart attack in the middle of the night. Now I'm here to tell you, I'm going to give you some advice. If you're ever going to have a heart attack, do not have it on a blow-up mattress. I'm lying there, and I think I'm dying, and I'm such an alcoholic because there's a phone right here, but I want to see what I look like, you know, so I crawled down to the bathroom, and I pulled myself up, and I'm like, man, I look terrible, you know, and I slid back down again. I'm like yellow, and I crawled back, and then I finally called the hospital. I called my wife, and she called the hospital, and they brought a team over, and there's a local hospital in Rockaway, and they brought me there, and they were like, no, this guy's got to go. They've got a hospital on the North Shore of Long Island, LIJ. They got a 24-hour team on standby. So they rushed me over there. I think I'm going to die, and it's amazing. When you get to the hospital, they're all standing there, the nurses, the doctors, and the crash cart, and they're like asking all these questions, you know, and they said to me, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the pain like? I'm like, I don't know, like a 9. We see, is this your wife here with you? I said, yes. We see that cross around your neck. Are you a Catholic? I'm like, it's a Jewish hospital. Why is it better if I'm Jewish, you know? Trying to keep all my options open, as only an alcoholic would, you know? And they brought me into the hospital, and I flatlined on the table. And I'm dead for like 3 minutes. And I have the whole after-death experience. And I'm not going to go into that now. The point I'm trying to make here is, they finally found out I had a problem since birth, and they put a bunch of hardware in my heart, and I'm leaving the hospital. Now, why am I telling you this? I'm leaving the hospital, and I says to anybody that would listen, and there wasn't many, you're looking at the new me. With the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and having this after-death experience, I'm not going to get annoyed in traffic anymore. I'm not going to get annoyed in the supermarket anymore. And for about a week, I was like the Dalai Lama of Long Island, you know? Somebody would cut me off. I'd be like, peace be with you, my brother. I'm in no hurry. I'm living in eternity. I've been to the other side. This is not all that important, you know? Then you miss a couple of meetings. You don't call your sponsor. And even something as deep and profound as that, alcoholism will run right over the top of it. So what am I telling you? There's certain things I must do to enjoy this sober life. I must have unity. I must be with my people. I must be tethered to AA through service. and I must be part of that spiritual continuum, somebody ahead of me and trying to bring somebody behind me. And when I do those things, everything else seems to fall into place. And even though the problems, as I said, might be complex, the solution is always simple. As Dr. Bob said, when he gave that Gettysburg Address of AA in 1950, and he said more in 3 minutes than I've said in over an hour. And he said love and service. We all know what love is, and we all know what service is. So freely give what was freely given to you. Trust God, clean house, help another alcoholic, and surely we'll meet you as we trudge the happy road of destiny. I want to send you greetings from Rockaway Beach. If you're ever in Rockaway Beach, come look us up. We've got some meetings there too. I want to thank you for your hospitality here tonight. It's been a privilege and an honour, and I wish you well. Thank you so much.
I'd like to thank Bob for driving Paul up today, and I'd like to thank Paul again for coming all the way down. Thank you very much. We head over to Perkins afterwards. We got plenty of ham sandwiches and donuts. Please help us finish it. There'll be an extra pot of coffee next week. Anyway, what was I going to tell you? Oh, next week we have Joyce R. coming in from the Midtown group of Bethesda, Maryland. We have a nice way of closing if you care to join us. See you next week.